rise, the Court of Cebu Doctors University is now in session. The Honorable Judge Opidencio presiding.
Please be seated. The case of the People versus D.Piddy is now called. Prosecutors, you may begin.
Your Honor, members of the jury, today we will prove that the defendant, Mr. P.D., is guilty of racketeering conspiracy and sex trafficking. We will demonstrate how Mr. P.D. used his lavish parties, also known as D.P.D. parties, to lure and exploit vulnerable individuals. We will present evidence showing a pattern of coercion, manipulation, and forced prostitution, all for the defendant's profit.
Your Honor, members of the jury, the prosecution's claims are baseless. Mr. Piddy is a successful entrepreneur who throws parties. While some attendees may have made poor choices, Mr. Piddy is not responsible for their actions. We will show that he is a victim of a smear campaign and that the prosecution has no real proof.
The prosecution calls victim 1 to the stand. Miss, please state your name and tell the court what happened.
My name is Miss Sumalino, and I was invited to a D.Piddy party. I was offered a drink. Suddenly, I felt dizzy. I suddenly woke up in a room and I was forced to do things I didn't want to do.
The prosecution calls victim 2 to the stand. Miss, please state your name and tell the court what happened.
My name is Paloma Mangera, and I had a very similar experience. I was at one of these parties, and next thing I knew, everything just went black. I was forced to perform sexual acts against my will.
The prosecution calls witness 1, a former party attendee, to the stand. Miss, please state your name and tell the court what you observed.
My name is Miss Sassen. I witnessed, I saw girls being pressured to go into rooms with older men. I saw large amounts of cash being passed around. It seemed very suspicious.
The prosecution calls detective to the stand. Detective, please describe your investigation.
Yes, thank you very much. So we conducted surveillance on the defendant's properties. We found financial records showing large unexplained deposits. We also have multiple witness statements corroborating the victim's accounts.
The prosecution calls the forensic accountant, Ms. Magalso, to the stand. Ms. Magalso, please explain your findings.
Financial records show a complex network of shell companies and accounts linked to the defendant. There are large sums of money being moved, consistent with a sex trafficking operation.
The defense calls P. Diddy to the stand. Mr. Piddy, please tell the court your side of the story.
I throw parties. They are for entertainment and networking. I have no idea what these people are talking about. If anyone did anything illegal, it was without my knowledge.
Forensic accountant, can you be certain that these financial transactions are linked to illegal activities?
The pattern suggests a high probability, but absolute certainty is difficult.
Members of the jury, the evidence is clear. The defendant ran a sophisticated operation exploiting vulnerable individuals for profit. Justice demands a guilty verdict.
Members of the jury, the prosecution has presented no concrete proof. They have relied merely on speculation and hearsay. Mr. Piddy is innocent.
Members of the jury, you have heard the evidence and arguments. Please retire to deliberate.
All rise. The jury has reached a verdict.
The members of the jury, have you reached a verdict?
We have.
In the case of the people versus D.Piddy on the charge of sex trafficking, do you find the defendant guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.